viewers, we are glad to have you again this Friday. From wherever you are watching us, we believe and trust that God has kept you just the way He has kept us over here, and He's allowed us to meet again to discuss some pertinent issues concerning our faith and our walk and our journey. Of course, this is Growing Together in Christ panel, and I'm Oluoch, your host, and today we are looking into a topic that touches on our lives, day-to-day lives, on how we respond to issues and matters, and the approach to give these responses. And so our topic is simple. At what point does one say no to the elderly without offending them? And how should we do it? When we are saying the no, how should we do it? Then how should be the response of the elderly person when we say no to them? And with me is Mr. Nduhiu. I know we all know him. He's been here before. Mr. Nduhiu, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And also with us is our brother Muchai, who has been part and parcel of this panel today. We've welcomed him again. Sam, karibu.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, we go straight to our topic of discussion, and I'm going to start with Elder Nduhiu. Who is an elderly person? I think, given that I've called you an elder, it will be easy for you to describe an elderly person. Who is an elderly person?
No, thank you, Dan. I went to the dictionary and I just got a few that an elderly. I think I would say elderly is growing old. Growing old, eh? Mm-hmm. And then elderly is also older people. Mm-hmm. Yeah? It is also having lived for relatively many years. Notice the word relatively. Yes. Yeah, that is what I got from the dictionary. Mm. And I do agree with it. Mm. And maybe I would also want to put an element of age, the number of years. Mm. Elderly, I would think, is somebody who is 50 years and above. Mm. Yeah, that is the way I think.
Muchai, anything you want to add to that definition, now that you're a young man?
Just to appreciate that I still agree. Mm. Elderly meaning a group of people of higher age. Mm. And with that, I regard as age comes with a wealth of experience, and as such, there is much to learn from them. Mm. Also, I regard as the elderly in terms of picking the word an elder as someone who has authority, either over you or over a group of people. Mm. Yeah, so with authority comes the aspect of eldership. Mm. I'll pick that also.
Wow, thank you. So then that means in our most of our interactions, we must have interacted one or the other with people who are elderly, irrespective of your age. If you're 60 years, I believe you must have interacted with someone who is 65, 70, or 80, or even 100. If you're in your 30s like ourselves, then definitely we might have interacted with people who are 40 or 50, and so would regard them as elderly. Elsewhere, we might have interacted with people who are highly ranked in terms of authority, would still consider them as elderly people, as what Muchai has said. Now, this is a very interesting one. In which context do the elderly start having expectations of us? Because for us to get to the point where we have to respond to them, then it means one way or the other there's some expectation that they put on us, or they have on us, Mr. Nduhiu. At what level or in which context? Because I know we have parents who are, by default, are considered as elderly. If you're a son or a daughter to someone, then definitely your father or mother, they are elderly. So there's the context of the family and maybe some other context that you'd tell us about.
I would want, first of all, to start with something that I saw. There's a time I used to work in Sudan, and in that country, people grow sorghum. Sorghum is their food. And when it was harvest season, I used to see a stream of women carrying very huge baskets on their head. we used to see them from an airstrip. There's an airstrip where we used to meet visitors, or when we are taking a flight, we'd just be standing there waiting for the flight to arrive. So I saw this stream of women carrying very big baskets. And then I told my friends, I want to go and feel how these women feel when they carry these baskets. And even before I went there, I noticed that there were also some girls who are also walking. They were walking in a single file. Some women are just knitting, but the basket is on their head. There is a girl who is also having a small basket on top of her head. So I went, and then I asked one of the ladies to ease off that basket and put it on my head. The pain I felt was so much. That basket weighs about 100 kilos. Actually, it's 90 kilos of sorghum. And these women are just walking. And they are walking comfortably. And then there is also a small girl who is also having a basket, almost, the basket is smaller, just like he is also smaller. So I'm going all this way so that I show you, I answer this question. When are we expected? When do our elders expect that we are of age? It is when we start taking responsibility. When we start taking responsibility, even if you say in terms of years, it might not really count much. It is just that time when the parent just notices that you are starting to take up responsibility. However young you could.
So, Sam, this responsibility might be in the family context. It might be in work environment. I'm going to speak about the work environment, even in church. When our leaders in church, or even our pastors and some of the people that we serve within church start having this responsibility, what might trigger it?
One, just as I said, that I will consider the elders also the people in authority. The aspect of them, no, let's say you've gotten a new manager,
Yes.
line manager. Probably initially you were peers in the same grade. Now he's been given much authority. At that moment, he's start having expectation on you, so that there are tasks that he expects you to deliver, and as such, the expectation has already come with the aspect of them gaining the authority. So there is that aspect.
Yes.
In the place I work, I've always found that we have very young people in the managerial positions, and still under them you find there are probably other elderly people whom they also probably they have direct reports to, and as such, although they are of higher age, but they still expect them as a manager. There are expectation on them on delivery, and as such, there are points that they need them to deliver, and therefore, with that comes the issue of expectations. In family setup, I've always, just as our elder Nduhiu has said,
Yes.
when expectations of when you've started being responsible. Also in the society, there is that aspect, the initiations process that happen within our societies, and whereby the culture, with culture now comes those expectations, that this young boy has now graduated to manhood, probably after circumcision and so. And the aspect that you regarded now, from that point henceforth, start changing. And now the people that were within you, that the parents now start viewing you from a different point of view and having expectation upon you. So there are things that you may want to do, but they will be questioned. Do you remember you should no longer be doing such? At times you may probably feel to say yes or no. Probably you feel they're still good for me. So at that moment comes now the expectations.
Thank you, Sam. I think two things come out, Mr. Nduhiu. We have the nurturing bit,
Yes.
and then we have the responsibility bit. Nurturing bit in the sense that we are always being nurtured one way or the other. And so if you're nurturing someone, then of course you have some expectation on them. And if you have assigned responsibility on someone, then there should be some expectation. So I think it is two-pronged.
Two-pronged.
Yes. That is either you're being nurtured and so some expectations are needed,
Yes.
and also is either that is maybe you've been assigned some responsibility, and so of course some expectations are needed. Now, having spoken about this context and the expectations, how they come about between the elderly and the young guys or the young people, how then should we say no when they make a request on us? And I think this I want to start with you, Sam, because now we are talking about the elderly, and so you are, compared to Mr. Nduhiu here, you are, of course, he's the elderly here. So how would you, Muchai, say no to your parent, for instance?
Okay.
What are some of the things that we need to consider when we're saying no to them? To your pastor or your spiritual father or figure, or even your boss at your place of work when they ask or request for something or instruct you. What are some of the things that you would consider when you're telling them this? You're giving them a response, but it's no.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dan. One thing I appreciate or pick from that is that there is a leeway to say no or yes, or to just come to an acceptance. And the first guide that we'll always say is that we are reminded that let our yes be yes and our no be no. And as such, from the biblical perspective, there is a call to me to either say yes or no. Also remembering that there are responsibilities that you've been put upon. Like as much as no, you are expected to say a yes or no, there is that aspect that already come, that there is a say that you have probably to come up with. Yeah, and one of the reasons that I'll pick is probably a book of Proverbs.
So if I got you right, before you proceed, Sam, you're saying from the scriptures right away we can see that saying no is not sinful.
Yeah.
We have been given the leeway
to say no,
or the green light to say no.
Yeah,
if I got
and that
right.
is, yes, Matthew 5:37 says, let whatever you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than that comes from the devil. This is when Christ giving an example of reminding us about keeping our oath. Whatever we promise to do, then let us keep our promises. Let us keep our oath. And at that moment, before you even probably put an oath or a promise, then if you said yes to do to something, then you have to keep it. And that's why now reminding us that let our yes be simply yes or no. Anything other than that probably will come from the devil, the evil one, as he'll say. Another aspect, now the aspect of how, is Proverbs. We have a very rich of knowledge about how we respect or how we consider our parents, our mothers, our fathers, and even other people within the society. And in Proverbs 23:22, probably we could have a read of that.
Proverbs what?
Proverbs 23:22.
22. Proverbs 23:22 says, "Listen to your father who begot you, and do not despise your mother when she is old."
Yeah, so that is the aspect that I'll pick. One is the aspect of reasoning. That before I can say no or say yes, there is a call for me to be attentive to what I'm being prompted to. And that to me will be the first key point. The second thing is about not despising, and now it's regarding the mother.
Yes.
That I should not despise whatever they are saying, and therefore there is a call for me to give it a consideration. Before I just give a no, probably there are those aspects you feel I need to say a no just for them to feel I've gotten to that point of I can make a decision. But no, that is probably, I'll call it a foolish decision because you are just saying to prove a point. And therefore that will be now, you'll be lacking the aspect of, you'll be showing some kind of despising. The other thing will be showing respect. As much as now I need to say no, then how do I say it? 1 Peter 2:17 says, show respect. Some version will say, show honor to everyone. And therefore, we just said about the elderly in terms of being the elder person in terms of age and the elder person being in terms of authority. So love the family of believers. Fear God, honor the empire. And to me, I'll just pick every point that show respect. That is what I need to show. As much as I'm saying yes or no, then I need to show respect towards it. One, having listened and considered what their point of action or the point of action they are asking me to do, then I should show respect. Yeah.
So you are saying, as much as we would say no to whatever request or instruction from an elderly person, we need to give an ear to what they are saying.
Exactly.
We need to honor them in our response.
Yes.
We need to respect them in our response.
Exactly.
I don't know if you could give us, before we go to Elder Nduhiu, if you could give us a scenario, a real life scenario of a setup where some example of a parent or an elderly person will make a request, or even at work, someone, your boss would make a request, and things that somehow you might end up saying no to, and how would you say no to them?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give an example in my parents.
Yes.
There are times probably he may be at some point and he needs some financial support.
That is your
or
dad.
he has had some financial support he needs. And you probably realize at this moment there are other responsibilities that are upon me also. And I also need to consider them. So he will like just give you a call, kindly send me this amount of money. And humbly I'll be eager to know that, one, he's brought me up and he has given so much to my upbringing. And therefore, there is that expectation also even from him, and even within me I feel there are some expectation within me.
Yes.
But one thing I realize that at this moment there are other tasks or some other responsibility within me and also need to be sorted. And therefore the aspect that I'll always remind them is giving the aspect or the issues that are at hand for them to really understand. Or I've always given them this point that there is this project I'm doing and I've chucked some amount of cash towards it. And therefore for this moment I may not be able to give you this amount, but I can probably give you half of what you requested or some significant amount. That is to me what I've always done, or I'm always doing, was giving them the scenario as it is. Give them reasons as to why not. Yeah.
So you're saying our no should also be
Supported
some
by
one or two reasons.
Yes, and not
Why
made up reasons, but rather facts. Yes.
Not excuses.
Not excuses.
Elder Nduhiu, that is from a young man's perspective. Now, other than being of age in terms of being an elderly person, you're also a parent. And I know you have a number of children. How would you expect them to package their no when they're responding to you?
Now, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to really appreciate what Muchai has brought up. He has brought up this scripture, Matthew 5:37, that do not talk too much. Yeah? In fact, they say yes or a no. Because when you are saying a no, you are not just saying it for the sake of it.
Okay.
Number one, you want to say a no, and at the same time, show this superior person or a boss or your father that there is no power struggle. Yeah? You are still a son or you are still an employee. Yeah? So there is no struggle. You don't want to take up any position. You don't want to show that they don't know what they are doing. So there is absolutely not. You should have that spirit in you. Number two, you should actually acknowledge. You acknowledge and let them acknowledge that you have the same goals. If it is an organization or if it is a family, you have the same goals. Yeah? At the end of it, the goal is one. So I'm just part of a system, and all of us are doing it for the sake of this goal. The other thing is to emphasize. I don't know how to put it.
Emphasize or empathy?
Empathy. Empathy, yeah. To have empathy, even when you want to say no, you want to reject what they really are asking you to do. The other one, and that is, I'm still on what Brother Muchai said, that you have got to have a reason for saying no, is to explain the consequences of this request if you said yes to the program that you're already running. Yeah?
I get it.
And I'm imagining that if it is your boss or it is your dad who has given you a task at the beginning of the month, maybe he told you go and dig this portion from here to here and do it in 2 weeks. And then he's coming again to tell you now, go and cut that fence. Then you'll tell them that already I'm digging. You can see where I am. Unless you want to sacrifice this farm, if you don't want to plant, that is the only time I can come and cut the fence. So that you throw it back to them also, so that they can now weigh and see whether what they are requesting is really worthwhile. Yeah. The other thing is just share your facts. Share your facts. Share the facts you have about what you are doing. If there are reasonable people who are telling you this thing that you really don't want, you shouldn't know, then they will think about it. The other thing, this now I'm moving from the family setup. I'm now in the office setup,
yes,
or an institutional setup or a church setup.
Okay.
Initially, when you start this relationship, or when you join this organization, or when you come into this place, it's good to set your limits. It is very important to set your limits so that people will know you start from here and end there. And they will not come to tell you things that are outside those limits. For example, if you declared in your working environment that you are born again, that is setting your limit. You set your limit, and nobody will come and demand certain things that are outside those limits, because they will be reminded that you belong to this, to this, to this. Think through. You also ask them to think through about the timing of this. I think that I'm just repeating myself. Yeah, just say no without making this senior feel belittled. Yeah, don't just say no and then you go. Give them more information. Why you think their suggestion of what you want to do versus what you are already doing. If I really would do what you are saying, then it is going to have an effect on this that is ongoing. Yeah, that will richly bless them. It will richly give them even a better way of dealing with you, even in the future.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Still on you, Mr. Nduhiu. So this fella who is a little bit younger has given you that response.
Yes.
No. And they have packaged it as we have explained,
yes,
with respect, honor, and with explanations and reasons why.
Yes.
Then, in case you get offended with the response, the no response,
yes,
I'm trying to look at people who would actually get offended, the elderly who would get offended by that particular reason. What are some of these things that would make them be offended? Is it just simply negating what we have said, that if it is not respectful, if it is not with honor, then they would be offended? Or there are some other reasons why would make an elderly person be offended?
We said, at what point do the elderly now want to give you responsibility? It is at that point when you have showed that you are responsible enough to do a task or to do something. Yeah? So if you have not gotten there, and yet you are saying no, and you are giving reasons, maybe this person is still not convinced that you are responsible enough. Yes. So the first thing is to get there, is to be responsible. Yeah, so that aspect that used to be in an elder, that you are still a child, is no longer there, and that you are now mature. Yeah. So I think the ball is still in the court of this person who is saying no. They should go and re-examine themselves and really find out whether this no was a really no or it wasn't. Yes.
Muchai, a place of expectations, because as we said earlier, if they are nurturing us or they have given us responsibilities, these elderly people, is it that at times they have too much expectation or too high expectations on us, and so they'll be disappointed when we respond with a no?
One, I may not say too much expectation, or I'll divide it with age. There are times when, as a parents, are bringing us up.
Yes.
Having, like for me, I've been brought up in a family where the dad is born again, the mom is born again. And at times, they might be, or they are more of, want to bring up a godly family.
Yes.
And they end up knowing that they have been convinced that obey your children, and therefore the children obey your parents. And so this is what they want to instill. That could be one of the things that they may be saying, I'm trying, but this seems not to be getting to these children. But I'll give an example. When we were growing up, my sister, who was the eldest. So you'll find that on Saturdays, we had more time. Probably you could think you could sleep much more because you don't have to wake up early. But one of the things I've always understood of seen with my dad especially is that he will expect you or he wants you to do whatever I've told you, and especially when those times that we are growing up, he expected you to do it as without any objection. Or if not, you need to give an explanation of why not. So on this Saturday, my sister is called, wake up. He does not wake up. My dad calls her 3 times. And finally, she gets up and she's summoned just outside when my dad seated outside the house. And he asked her, why was I calling you when you were keeping quiet? My sister just says, no reason or nothing. He's why was I calling you when you were keeping quiet?
That is your dad?
Yes, asking her. She says, nothing. And my dad is somehow pissed off, and don't tell me I know again. Where was I calling you and you're not waking up? My sister ends up just keeping quiet. And then the next question is, why are you keeping quiet? Nothing. I told you not to tell me nothing again. So there is an expectation of, then if I told you to do this and you're not doing it, then give me the reason why. So that is another thing that, as much as they expect you to do this, but you didn't do, there is also another expectation now that is coming up. Then give me a reason. And I will see my dad pissed off by that. He says nothing that was making him to keep quiet. And again, when he's asked not to say so, he still ends up keeping quiet. And now he's keeping quiet. He's not giving a reason as to why. So there is an expectation of a reason or as to why not. So that is one that I may say.
I don't know if I should put this to Mr. Nduhiu or to you, Sam. But let me put it to Mr. Nduhiu. You have children.
Yes.
That you oversee. And so I've heard of stories, and some of us, these things have happened to us, that our fathers or our parents, I'm going to use this family setup as an example, as a context. They wanted to be engineers in their lives.
Yes.
Or to be doctors, for instance. And then for one reason or the other, they were not able to.
Yes.
To attain whatever they wanted. Then they they have these offsprings. And so they have an expectation over these offsprings that one way or the other, Dan must become an engineer.
Yes.
Muchai must become a doctor. Then, of course, as we grow as your children, we realize that we would not want to be doctors or engineers. Then we tell you, Dad, on this one, no. I want to be a programmer, or I want to be a musician, what we call artist today. Now, if your child gives you that response, with the expectation you have, that's why I said at times I feel maybe they have too much expectation. How would you respond to it?
Now, I would want to, you have come to an area that I actually call a red light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Issues to do with career choices, issues to do with courtship, and peer pressure, and that. But let's look at this, the career choices.
Yes.
I want to talk about my family. My wife and I are both agriculturalists.
Okay.
And our three daughters, none of them is actually interested. Even if I was there tending some plants there, somebody will come and ask me a very stupid question. And I wonder, we have been doing this all the time, and these people don't know the basic things about plants. My friend, another friend of mine, is also implementing an agricultural project. He is an engineer, but he's retired. He is implementing a small drip irrigation system just outside their home here. And he has children, grown-up children, and none of them just even comes to ask, Daddy, what is this pipe about? What are you planting?
They're not interested.
They're not interested. And you'd expect if agriculture blood is flowing in both of us,
yes,
my wife and I, then there should be at least one who we should be
amongst the offspring,
coming,
yes,
amongst our offspring, who is coming to just take up, because when you are growing, all done, you would expect that people should come and take
It's
up what
true.
you have. But this does not happen. But we don't take it so seriously.
How
we
so?
still think that maybe there will be a granddaughter or a grandson who will still come and do it.
Okay.
Alternatively, now for me, in my case, my daughters are both married, and they have brought some sons-in-law. I have 2 sons-in-law.
Yes.
And one of them, when he comes, he has his hands on. He gets into what I'm doing. So I'm rewarded in one way. Even if I'm not happy about my very own children, God still supports me by telling me, no, you haven't lost. Yeah. So that is how I look at it myself. I won't look at it with a lot of bitterness. I have expectations that they should know. In fact, they should even know some of the basic things that we have been doing all along. But since now they are not interested, but they're doing other equally important things,
Yes.
then I'll let go. I'll let go.
So if I got it right, you're saying that some of the expectations that elderly people might have might be you mentioned red light, the red line or something of that sort, in terms of expectation or even requests that would make to the young ones would be the red line bit.
Yes.
Well, I think that is true.
I may want to say something more.
Yes, just before we take a break. Yes.
Career choices. We have people who have been pushed into careers that they are now in. And they are not happy people. They would rather have done the simple things in life, become an artist, and when they are doing that artwork, they are happy, they are joyful, and they have reasons to wake up early to go and do it. But when they have been forced into things that they did not really have that heart for, then all is wasted labor. They will still come back to those things that their heart really wants. Yes.
Wow. Viewers, I think Mr. Nduhiu has put it to us quite well. That, yes, as elderly people, they have expectations, but at times those expectations might go beyond the red line. So I think even if you are watching us and you are elderly, you would consider not crossing the red line. We'll take a break and we'll be back to look into another part of this particular topic. And the question that I'll be posing to Muchai when we'll be back is, why should we say no if we have to say no? And viewers, that is the question we'll be back with. We are going to take a short break. Kindly stay tuned. Thank you.